Finally, I'm live. Finally. Oh my gosh. And we should have volume. It's coming somewhere, from somewhere, to somewhere.
Finally, I'm live.
Finally.
Oh my gosh.
And not going to have me talking, that's for sure. So,
all right, how was
where did this go?
Very good, huh? Okay, and moving on.
Wow, that was horrible.
Okay.
That was horrible, horrible, horrible.
Mr. Grosskreutz, I'm going to approach you for a second.
I need a dock. So I just plug one thing in instead of having to plug in a half dozen. All right, here's Jabron Extraordinaire.
So on this document, it's marked 2520. I don't know if that's reference to the time of the incident, but this statement was given. It looks like 900. I'm sorry, 9:46 a.m. of the following day.
So just so we're clear, it says on 8/25/20 at 11:30 p.m. this happened, right?
Correct.
Okay. So the only thing I want to make sure that you're comfortable with saying is there's markings.
All right, I feel like I'm repeating. There's an echo.
Yes, there is.
Okay, and the statement is 2 pages. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would.
Okay. And can you tell me what those marks are on the left-hand side of that document?
There was an echo, but I fixed it.
Referred to, there are circles.
Oh, man.
Looks like 2 on the first page, 2 on the second page. And these are on the left-hand indent. And in those circles are my initials.
Okay. So you had at various points during that statement put your initials on it?
Correct. I wasn't able to, I'm right-hand dominant, so I wasn't able to write. So the officer that, I'm not sure which officer that was, but the officer was taking my verbal statement, transcribing it, and then throughout, I would initial either, so you can see here, there's the word approximately was crossed off.
What is going on? Why is somebody calling me?
There's a correction there made.
Okay, so can I ask you this? Where it says, I told multiple
My whole life right now
drop my firearm. Right next to that.
is messed up.
Right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And to be fair, on the bottom of each one of these pages, it says, I have made the above statement without any threats or promises. It is my desire to state the true facts as to this incident. I have read the above statement and find it true and correct. Is that what it says?
That is what it says, yes.
Okay, and you signed that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So my last, where we left off, I just have a couple questions for you. I had asked you if you had any regrets about that evening and that you had said that you did not, correct?
Correct.
And I had asked you if you know a person, Jacob Marshall, correct?
Yes.
And Jacob Marshall may not be today, but he was your roommate.
Yes.
And you had said that he had visited you in the hospital.
Yes.
And I'm going to show you what is marked as Exhibit 7. I'm not interested in the stuff on the right now. I'm just interested in the photograph. Okay? Is that a photograph of you and Mr. Marshall?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Does that appear to be taken after you had suffered the injury to your arm?
Yes.
Okay. And that's at a hospital. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you had said you didn't have any regrets. Did you tell Mr. Marshall that your only regret was not killing the kid and hesitating to pull the gun before emptying the entire magazine?
This is going to be big. This is a big one.
No, I never said that.
You didn't tell that to your roommate.
Objection, answer. Hold on.
You didn't tell that to Mr. Marshall?
No, I did not.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Now he's going to bring Marshall in to testify that he did say that or that he lied on his post. Thank you, No Name Tennessee.
You can do it after if you want.
talk about those two exhibits afterwards. I do have objection to both of them.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I wish we could see who that was. No name Tennessee.
I just have a few,
What about those Vols this weekend?
Here. At one point in the video that was played for you by the defense, you referred to the defendant as a boogaloo boy. What did you mean by that?
I don't recall if I was referring specifically to the defendant. I think a more accurate statement would be the group of armed individuals, predominantly white males with AR-15s.
You're a predominantly white male with a Glock.
We'll say paramilitary attire. And what I mean by that is
No, they don't.
camel clothes, body armor, chest rigs, helmets, things of that nature.
Is it fair to say, Mr. Grosskreutz, that no matter what you tell us or remember, everything you did that night's on video or photographed, correct?
That is true.
Ooh.
I want to play a little bit of exhibit
Ooh.
57. Can we go to the 31-minute mark, please? 31 minute. This was a portion of the exhibit that was played for you on cross-examination, and I just want to go back to that for a moment. Can we play from there, please?
Looks like the Boogaloo boys, the good old boys rolling up. Two right there. Two right there.
These people don't sound happy.
Yo, we got our own medics. You're good. You can go home.
The voice that's heard there saying, "We got our own medics, you can go home." That's your voice, right?
Yes, it is.
Why did you say that?
It was my interpretation throughout the events of August 25th that these armed individuals, whether they were Boogaloo Boys, Proud Boys, etc., all had we'll say, a homogenous appearance. Again, meaning the rifles, the body armor. And what I had inferred throughout the events of that night, that these groups of people weren't received very friendly towards other demonstrators. And in specifically to reference the defendant, it was also my interpretation that the defendant lacked the necessary experience, potentially the necessary knowledge to adequately fulfill his self-proclaimed role as a medic.
Can we now go to the 57-minute and 36-second mark in this video, please?
Stay on your property. That's why you got problems already with people.
Here's the hothead here.
I know you are, but like, they got their own medics.
A question about the defendant's reaction.
All right, I'm going to try to find a different stream because I don't like not being able to see.
Was told told by someone, don't go out in the street, stay on your property. And you were asked if the defendant reacted in any certain way. Do you know if he came and spoke with anyone about that comment at that moment in time?
No, I do not.
Okay. Now, can we go to the 1 hour, 17 minute, and 10-second mark in this exhibit, please?
That sounded like gunshots. That sounds like multiple gunshots.
All right, guys, hang on one second here. I'm going to change screens because this one's focused just on his
Southbound
face.
on Sheridan.
We want to see what he
This
sees.
is- I was just 60th.
Okay, there we go. Well, that didn't work out for me.
Is the only
There we go.
words exchanged between you and the defendant after the defendant killed Joseph Rosenbaum.
Yes.
And you've already explained what you heard at that time. We've already heard the video. Was there ever a time in which the defendant said someone pulled a gun on him?
In hindsight, no.
In your statement the next morning, you told the police you'd heard
In
the
hindsight,
words,
no.
something to the effect of he pulled a gun on me from the defendant. Is that right?
Correct.
With the benefit of hindsight, we can see that never happened, correct?
Correct.
At the time you gave the statement to the police the following morning, how long have you been awake?
Couple hours, no more.
After surgery.
After surgery, yes.
And before surgery, you'd been awake all day Tuesday, right?
Yes.
And in the time period between you were shot by the defendant and the time you spoke to the police officers, did you even have possession of your phone?
No, I did not.
Had you watched this Facebook live stream?
No, I had not.
Can we continue that video now, please?
Hey, stop him!
Sound like gunshots there. The 8 shots.
Mr. Grosskreutz, we can still hear audio, but there's no video coming from your live stream. Do you know why that is at this particular moment in time?
I believe it's because I dropped my phone after being shot by the defendant.
To the best of your knowledge, did the audio that we just captured?
What's this guy doing back on?
Capture everything.
And why does he have a Millennium Falcon pin?
When you are, after you talked to the defendant and had that little exchange until you got shot?
Yes.
At any point in there, did you say anything about you're going to kill the defendant, you're going to shoot the defendant, make any threats to the defendant of any kind?
No.
Can we please pull up exhibit number 5? While we're getting ready for Exhibit 5, let me just ask, may I put you on? Mr. Grosskreutz, the defense has shown you a photograph which has been marked as Exhibit number 65. I'm just going to hold that up for you. Does this show you with your hands raised before the defendant shoots you?
Yes.
Okay. And I'll just, I think this has been on the TV screen, but I'll just show the jury. Are you?
I don't understand why the...
No, I'm not.
Is this right before he does the re-racking of the gun?
prosecution's back up there.
And then exhibit number 66.
Unless the defense rested. Surely they didn't.
Moving towards the defendant after he re-racks the gun. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it is.
Now, you were asked if you are pointing your gun at the defendant in this picture and also in exhibit number 67. Do you remember being asked those questions?
I do.
At any point during that encounter, did you intentionally point your firearm at the defendant?
No, I did not.
Can we play exhibit 5, please? At this point in the video, there are people that are running in the same direction as the defendant. Are you even on screen yet?
I don't see myself on screen now.
All right, let's keep going. The person that attempts to kick the defendant has flown over the defendant. Mr. Huber is approaching the defendant. Are you even on screen yet?
What's that have to do with something?
No, I'm not.
All right, let's continue. Now, at this moment in time, you are on the screen, and it appears that you're sort of crouching, like crouching down as if what? What were you thinking at that moment? Why were you doing that?
I don't know where they're going with it. This
First,
bothers me.
Me on the screen crouching, and it was reactionary instinct, I guess is a good way to put it. And the best way that I could describe that is one, the noise from the shot, and it's a very large caliber firearm, and I think that in of itself probably startled me. But then my immediate next thought was I could be shot next.
If your intent was to shoot the defendant with your Glock pistol, would you have gotten that close to him?
That was my intent? No.
If that was your intent, you wouldn't have done that.
Exactly. Right, correct.
keep going for just a second, please. Would you mind, if you can, standing up and demonstrating to the jury how your body is positioned in this still?
So if
A microphone?
We get you.
No, they better hurry up and do something. I've got to get out of here. I've got to be somewhere at 4.
I'll give you the microphone, and if you could just step in front of the jury there, I'd like you to demonstrate this for us. Go ahead.
This guy's all about the lunging, the grabbing, the diving. Surprised he hasn't asked to take off his jacket and show his wound.
so in this still, if the defendant is right here in front of me on the ground, this is my pistol that I had in my hand, my cell phone. My body is bladed towards the defendant. I have a cell phone in my left hand, microphone or pistol in my right. My body is bladed with my left hand, left arm, towards the defendant's firearm, but then my pistol in a similar angle I'm about to show you.
When you were after all this was said and done, was there any impact or anything like that on your left arm from that gunshot?
Yes, there was.
What was that?
It was determined to be a muzzle burn,
From its proximity to the defendant's gun?
so a little more context on that. Bullet is fired or gases that are
Judge, I'm going to object.
That's fine. We'll move on. You can go ahead and have a seat. Thank you for doing that.
Don't knock over
At
the
that
judge's
moment in
tissues.
time, right before you got shot by the defendant, did you feel there was an imminent danger?
I mean, this guy,
The
you
defendant
see
was
him
going
and you
to
think
kill
to yourself, what's he doing? Why is he out there? Is there
When
something
you
about the
were
Gaige
just
earrings that
demonstrating to us
just
the
show
way your
off
right
that
hand was holding the
he's
gun,
not as good as he
however
could
it was
be? I don't
angled?
know.
My question for you is that the way you hold and point a gun when you're going to shoot it?
no.
Objection. Circumstances. I mean, I can get a dozen expert witnesses to say that it doesn't matter.
So, Mr. Grosskreutz, you watched the video that Mr. Binger played when Mr. Rittenhouse was walking past you, and you had said something along the lines of, "No medics are needed here. We don't need you," right?
Yes.
And you were saying that, "Oh, here come some Boogaloo boys." You've never met Mr. Rittenhouse before, have you?
No, I'm not.
You had no idea who he was, any affiliation with any group, nothing, right?
No.
You were just spouting off guessing. Yes?
I was making an inference. Yes.
With no information.
Yes.
And Mr. Binger asked you if you ever threatened verbally with words Mr. Rittenhouse. Do you remember him asking you that?
I do.
And your answer was he did not.
Yes.
You'd agree people don't have to use words to threaten other people. They can do it by their actions. Correct?
Yes.
Like running after them down the street with a loaded firearm.
Ah!
Yes.
Like
Like you did.
approaching them, loading their foot and moving their gun forward while the person's on their butt sitting there, right? Those are nonverbal things that can be used to show aggression, correct?
Yes.
Now, you had been asked by Mr. Binger, and you had shown a demonstration of this blading maneuver, as you call it. And I'll take your word on that. Can you bring up 67? So, now, you can talk about what your mental intention was. You'd agree what everybody's looking at is you pointing a gun at a person's head, right?
As well as the defendant pointing his firearm at me.
No, object. That's not what I asked.
You are, by your own admission, pointing a pistol from less than 3 feet away at his head. Agreed?
No, I don't agree with that.
You don't agree that that gun is pointed in the direction of Mr. Rittenhouse's head? You don't agree with that?
In the direction, yes, but directly, no.
You didn't tell him what you were doing, right?
I don't have time to.
Well, as you're running, you didn't say anything, right? You're just chasing him down. You never say anything.
It would have been hard to communicate that over gunfire.
My question to you is, you never said a word to him other than approach him with your gun out from 3 feet away, right?
Yes.
I have nothing else.
When you asked the defendant if he'd shot anyone, he lied to you, didn't he?
Yes, you did.
And even though you've been asked questions about what he said at
lied
various
to
times
you.
or things like that, did he make threats to anything like that, to people, anything like that? You construed his actions as threatening, didn't you?
Based off of witnessing the first 2 shots with Jump Kick Man, the third shot that killed Anthony Huber, yes.
Thank you.
He didn't lie to you, right? When you had contact with him, he didn't lie to you, did he?
See, I asked.
Yes, he did.
How did he lie to you?
How exactly? How do you know?
Having asked him who was shot, and then him saying, I'm going to the police, which we know after the fact, and then saying,
Yeah.
I didn't do anything.
So it's your testimony today that you heard. Now, to be fair, your first interview
Awesome.
that you signed,
Awesome.
you said that he told you, I'm working with the police, right? Right?
Overruled.
That's what I heard in the moment, yes.
Okay, so you weren't telling the correct statement,
Ooh.
correct?
Can you,
Yeah.
You said that Mr. Rittenhouse.
Man,
lied
none
to
of these people have the correct
Your
statements. Have
initial
you noticed
statement to
this?
the police was, he told me I'm working with the police. You know that's not true.
after the fact, yes.
Okay. So what is on tape is he said, I'm going to the police, right?
Yes.
You're not saying that's not true.
No, I'm not.
Nothing else.
Mr. Counsel.
So that's it. Testimony's over for what's his name? Gaige. Gag something. Yeah, it's over. Oh man, look at this guy. That's a nice big long tie. You could shore a boat with that tie. Boy, a lot of people are leaving. A lot of people are leaving. Bailiff's going out there to make sure they don't talk out in the hallway. You can't talk about the case when you're outside.
See, we'll call Heather Williams to the stand.
Who's Heather Williams? Who is Heather Williams?
Stand please, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony about to give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated.
Let's see who Heather Williams is. See, this is the problem with Corona. You can't tell. It could be a trick. You don't know if she's good looking or not.
Please state your name and spell it for the benefit of the court reporter.
First name is Heather.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Put the mask back on. Put the mask back on.
Last name is Williams. Williams.
And where are you employed?
The Wisconsin State Crime Laboratory, located in Milwaukee.
And what is your current position at the crime laboratory in Milwaukee?
I am a firearms and tool mark examiner.
Oh, geez. Tool mark.
And how long have you been employed with the Wisconsin State Crime Lab as a firearms tool mark examiner?
A little over 5.5 years.
And what does that mean to be a firearms or tool mark examiner?
As a firearms and tool mark examiner, I conduct examinations of firearms and firearms related evidence, such as fired cartridge cases and fired bullets.
And is there any specialized education or training that you have done?
Oh, she's got a whole
as
litany
a
test of it.
Firearms or tool mark examiner.
Oh, you know she does.
Yes, I first hold a Bachelor's of Science degree in Law Enforcement and Justice Administration with a minor in Forensic Science that included a 525-hour internship at the DuPage County Forensic Science Center. I also completed the Wisconsin State Crime Laboratory Firearms and Tool Mark Examiner Training Program. It's an apprentice type training program, much like an electrician or a plumber, where you get both hands-on and classroom-like instruction.
And what exactly is firearms identification?
Firearms identification is the comparison analysis of fired evidence, compares bullets to barrels and cartridge cases to firearms.
And what process is used?
You know, they say that works.
Submitted.
I've always been suspect of it.
One of the first tasks that we perform when a firearm is submitted to the firearms section is called a function test. The purpose of the function test is to first make sure that the firearm is a functional firearm and that is also safe to test fire. During that function test, I'll check the condition of the firearm along with all safeties that are associated with that firearm.
And then what do you do next with when examining that firearm?
Once I've determined that that firearm is safe to test fire, I will test fire the firearm. This is done to make sure that the firearm is working properly and the way that the manufacturer intended for it to work. And also instances in which we have fired evidence, those test fired bullets and cartridge cases that are produced are then compared to that fired evidence to see if they were or were not fired in the submitted firearm.
And did you become involved in a case in your professional capacity regarding Kyle Rittenhouse, Joseph Rosenbaum, and Anthony Huber?
Yes, I was.
And how did you become involved with that case?
I was assigned to work that laboratory case.
I'd like to show you what has been previously marked and admitted as State's Exhibit 28. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do. I recognize that as the firearm that I analyzed for this specific case. How I recognize that is on the firearm in silver marker. I have indicated that laboratory case number associated with the case, the item designation of that item, my initials, and the date that that was examined.
So is it my understanding that you would have actually examined
Oh,
this exact firearm and fired it?
Correct. Yes.
correct. Oh my gosh, dude.
Thank you.
I really wish she put her mask back on.
So what do you use to test fire it with?
We're going to use ammunition that is part of our reference collection. When we choose the ammunition for our test fires, we try to choose it as close to the fired evidence that's submitted to that case.
So reload your own bullets.
A cartridge is unfired ammunition that's going to consist of 4 components.
A
You'll have the actual
primer,
cartridge case,
case,
the
a
primer,
bullet, and
you have
powder.
the propellant or gunpowder, and then you have the projectile or bullet.
So what is a cartridge case?
A cartridge case
The
is a portion of a
case that holds the
cartridge that is
propellant.
left over after it's been fired in a firearm. You may have commonly heard it referred to as brass.
And how do you determine if cartridge cases were fired in the same firearm?
You're going to look at markings that are transferred onto the fired cartridge cases during the firing process. Those are the markings that we look at to determine if they were or were not fired in the same firearm. And then
Everything I have is
where
beeping.
we
I have no idea
firearm,
why.
We're able to determine if they were or were not fired in a specific firearm.
So what's the difference between a cartridge and a bullet?
A cartridge, like I said, is going to be
It's a full thing.
unfired ammunition.
It's all 4
So it's going to be
components.
those 4
The bullet
components.
is the projectile.
The bullet is just one of those 4 components. So it's the projectile portion that you'll see on an unfired cartridge.
What are we getting to? These people in Wisconsin know this.
A fired bullet is going to be the bullet that is expelled through the barrel of a firearm. It's going to have impressions that are going to be left on that from the rifling or that spiral pattern that's going to be within that bore of the barrel.
So how can you determine if bullets were fired in the same firearm?
You're going to look at those rifling impressions that are left on a fired bullet from the barrel that it's been fired through.
Is your crime lab accredited?
Yes, we are.
And who
Yo,
accredits your
This is
your crime lab?
We are accredited through ANAB.
I don't know what they're trying to get to here.
ANAB. The American National
I gotta jump off.
Association Standards
I'm sorry.
National Accreditation Board.
I didn't know.
And are there any quality controls? Or
I thought we were
procedures
done
used
after Gaige's
for your
thing.
crime lab?
Yes. in
His
the
thing, his
firearms
testimony.
section, we have a 3-step quality control procedure. The first step is called the verification process. This is when any type of identification, elimination, or inconclusive results of fired evidence is then looked at by a second qualified examiner in the section.
I mean,
Once
she's
that
read the
verification process has been
textbook, hasn't she?
completed, there is then a peer
Anyway,
review
listen.
process in which all notes
I'd like
and
to get to a
reports that
breaking
looked at to
spot
make sure
here.
everything's
I
clear,
gotta go.
and accurate.
I have
That
an
last step
appointment
is
coming
the
up here in a few
administrative
minutes.
review. That is going to be when a supervisor will once again go through all reports and notes to make sure everything is clear, complete, and accurate before the report is submitted to the submitting agency.
I'll let you as marked as States Exhibit 72. Do you recognize that?
I do. This is the report that I issued for this specific case. I know that based upon the laboratory case number, as well as it has my name as well as my signature. And then it also has information on the second page with my initials showing that
She's good for legal. I mean, she's thorough.
Is that a true
She
and accurate copy of the
gives
report
textbook
you issued in
answers.
this case?
But I mean, my
Yes,
gosh,
it
it's
is.
boring.
I look at Exhibit 72 and
Could you imagine going on a date with her? Her talking like this?
Let's you as marked as States Exhibit 71. Can you please explain what this is?
This is one of the fired cartridge cases that I analyzed for this specific case. I can tell that based upon the laboratory sticker, the yellow sticker here, this has the laboratory case number associated with this case, the item designation, as well as my initials and date that I took this into my custody. I also have that information on the additional packaging for this specific item. And then we also have that information on the actual cartridge case itself.
So which was the bullet that was fired allegedly by the defendant? Where would that be in that package?
So you don't have to worry about having
This is
a.
going to contain one of the fired cartridge cases. So this is a portion of a cartridge that was fired. So this is the portion that is ejected.
You don't have to worry about having a serial number on a gun.
Top of the that
which is a
visual-
stupid
that is what
stupid
was
thing.
presented to you as an already
But
filled cartridge,
just
just that
take
one
the
that you tested.
Correct. Yes. This is a
names
piece of
off
submitted
the
evidence for
head
this
case of the
specific
brass.
case.
So what kind of is that a true and accurate copy of how you would have packaged up that particular cartridge casing and all the other elements in Exhibit 71?
Yes, I know that this is how I package this piece of evidence because at each one of the heat sealed seals,
I seal them with a
has
kiss.
my initials as well as the date that I actually sealed this piece of evidence.
I'd like to move Exhibit 71 into evidence. So after you test fire the weapon, the gun that we saw, then what happens next in your analysis?
So what I will do then is I will compare those test fired cartridge cases to the fired evidence cartridge cases for this specific case. I do that by using what is called a comparison microscope. These are two microscopes that are then connected by an optical bridge. It allows myself as an examiner to look at two objects simultaneously side by side. That way I'm able to see the markings that are transferred from the firearm during that firing process on the cartridge cases to look to see if the submitted evidence was or was not fired in the submitted firearm.
So what did you do?
I want to see an image what that looks like.
In this particular case, there were 8 fired cartridge cases that were submitted. Each one of those 8 fired cartridge cases were then compared to the test fire cartridge cases that I produced so that I could be able to determine
What are we
if
getting
they
to
were
here?
or were
I
not
mean,
fired in the submitted firearm.
So you were submitted.
is anybody denying that
of the-
there was a shooting that took
Hold on,
place?
71 briefly. You were given 8 of those cartridges on top.
Yes, it's 8 fired cartridge cases, just like this one here, was submitted for this specific case and analyzed.
And did you find that all 8 of those cartridges were fired through the weapon that Detective Antaramian showed you?
Yes, I was able to determine that the 8 fired cartridge cases submitted in this case was fired in the submitted firearm.
And that was by comparing each one to the test fired projectiles that you fired?
Correct, yes.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
You missed a bill.
Technical Officer Jason Krieger to the stand.
I have no idea what any of that meant. All right, we're going to leave before Jason Krieger gets out here. So the firearm cases they found matched the gun. They were given the test. Gaige is not a very good witness. He changed his story to fit his narrative. And that's it for today, guys. I'm sorry. I did not realize it was gonna go this long. There's if you're looking for another channel, go to Good Logic. He's a good guy. Nick Rakita is another one. Rakita has like 9,000 people watching him. So go over to Good Lawyering, I think. Good Law. Maybe it's Good Logic. I forget. He's got a name and a channel. These things are too hard to keep up with. Anyway, listen, love you guys. Appreciate you tuning in. I'm going to try to get some more on the Travis Scott case up tonight. That thing is amazing. So we will. It's the Astro World case. So. Oh, look, another guy, another person of color here, because this was a Black Lives Matter event, and there hasn't been a black person yet testifying. So, anyway, be safe, be good to each other. Until next time.
And were you working with an officer, Pep Moretti, at that date?
Yes.
Had you been working in the previous days